morning. Good morning. Welcome to the Crüe Roundtable. How are we doing today, Candy?
Spectacular. As we're talking politics and religion, now we're going to talk sports.
Right into it. No time like the present. We kind of just went straight. I mean, timer went off when you milliard rant on the whole history lesson, but we're here now, so let's get into some football. So we had a little confusion with the whole today's topic, so we decided we're just gonna split it up and just let the show go where it goes, right?
Absolutely. See, because actually, if you think about it now, I actually did my part was the best GMs in NFL history, and some of them what I actually is going to be talking about, or I'm going to be talking about, actually kind of bleeds over into your topic.
Right. Yeah. Not too much goes on trade wise or organization wise, for that matter, without the GM sign off or the GM wanting to have his thumbprint on the team or take the team in the direction he's wanting to push it into. You know what I mean? So
believe me, I know what you mean.
Well, let's just get into it. What are your, how do you say, top 6 GMs?
So really what I kind of have, we can actually go from 6 to 1. Because number 6, I have a fellow that you may have heard of. I'm not sure. Sometimes you have a lot of the upper echelon, within the NFL hierarchy and things like that. They tend to be behind the scenes, so you don't necessarily know a lot of their names unless they win some sort of a major award. They pull off a huge trade.
Get that leg lamp award.
Exactly. Or even a huge trade is a big bust.
Right.
So my number 6, as far as best GMs, is a fellow by the name of Rich McKay. Second generation NFLer. So he actually, I'm not sure if you actually heard of these guys either. He was directly responsible for a fellow by the name of Warren Sapp. I don't think I've ever heard of him.
Yeah, it's a gray area for me. I'm not real certain. I think he was probably one of the best defensive tackles in the league, and he played for a certain team down south.
No, I don't recall. And a fellow by the name of Derek Brooks. And also, Tony Dungy. Now, Tony Dungy might be just an absolute heck of a guy, and he is in real life. You get away from football, and he's actually done quite a few things for quite a few people in really different areas. But I'm sorry, I still hate that guy. Indianapolis Colts 2006, him and Peyton Manning they beat my Bears. So you put him on a football field, oh man, I can't stand him. You put him on the street, hey, Mr. Dungy, how you doing? That kind of thing.
Right. But go ahead. I mean, that draft is one for the record books, so I can't argue with that.
And also, in fact, one of the things that you were actually talking about just a few moments ago, he actually also traded for a fellow by the name of, is it Gruden?
That trade, while it's a good trade, I don't know if you can call it a great trade because, after John Gruden got, to Tampa Bay, he brought him a Lombardi, that's true, but he cost them, 10 years? Almost a decade, easy, with how the team fell apart after he left. When Gruden left the Raiders, they fell apart. When Gruden left the Bucs, or was still actually with the Bucs were in shambles. I mean,
so there's a couple ways you can really look at that. I mean, was it because of the coach, or was it because of the coach? Do they have their success solely because of the coach, or were they just kind of sort of falling flat because of the coach? Look at Bruce Arians, for example. He was actually able to lead that team into a championship, but was it because of him or in spite of him? Because you did have a guy who was playing the old quarterback position who does have some experience in Super Bowls, You bring in a few of those players that he's actually used to playing with, including, like, let's say, tight ends and things like that, and you have the makings of an exceptional team. And they, of course, won the championship a couple of years ago, and then they were a very good mediocre team.
Very good mediocre. Gotcha.
Nazi, moron.
But so Gruden definitely. I mean, one of only we looked at 5 coaches traded. I mean that's insane.
And that's one of them, right? Well, I think in hindsight, being 2020, you got to think that. And granted, a few years have passed, but the trade for Gruden and eventually him going to, of course, the Raiders. And granted, a few years have passed, but the trade for Gruden and eventually him going to, of course, the Raiders. And granted,
I lost you just a sec. You there?
Yeah, I'm here.
That was weird. I lost everything. Sorry.
That was weird. But with the whole Gruden thing to the Raiders this last time, it ended up being actually not a good thing for anybody, really.
Okay, so we got Gruden.
So the number 5 spot, all-time best as good as GMs, Carmen Policy.
And
so if by chance you've heard of this team out in San Francisco, they've had, some success back in the 80s and a little bit in the 90s. You might have had a couple of quarterbacks that were, Hall of Fame caliber. Joe Montana, of course, Steve Young. You had this fellow by the name of Jerry Rice, who, he's all right.
He brought Haley in too, right?
He did. He brought Charles Haley, Bryant Young.
Deion Sanders.
You had quite a few people that actually he's responsible for. Like I said, not only did you had, oh my goodness, the list goes on and on and on. But he's actually been able to do quite a few things in San Francisco with not having, the greatest budget and things like this to be able to work with. But he's been able to actually bring some quality players in, and I think he actually has some sort of a history with Bill Walsh too. So Bill Walsh, of course, being the offensive juggernaut that he was.
Yeah, Bill Walsh is just crazy. He gets overlooked so much. The game changed because of Walsh. With his West Coast offense, he changed the handoff to a screen pass. You know what I mean? He changed the handoff to a quick out. He just facilitated the ball through people instead of just handing it to him. Does that make sense? He just
very much
change it from ground and pound to let's stretch it out a little bit. Quick pass, things like that.
Right. What makes that kind of interesting that you mentioned that is, of course, Buddy Ryan and the Bears defense. You might have that inclination to be able to change certain things, but you do need to have that one person you can count on to be able to run that particular. So in this particular case, Joe Montana. Then of course you moved on to even Steve Walsh, but Steve Walsh, of course, that was Seifert, of course, who was the coach then during Steve Young's tenure.
Yeah.
But still, it's just one of those things where you do need to have that person who's going to be able to run that. Mike Singletary for the Bears. In this particular case, Joe Montana for Bill Walsh and his offense. And you also had the other parts. You had your Ricky Waters, for example. You had your, all these other players that were able to actually contribute to that particular offense. What really made it so good. Number 4 is a fellow by the name of Carl Peterson, Kansas City. So Kansas City, of course, there was a few things. First off, Marty Schottenheimer. He, of course, is the one who hired Marty Schottenheimer. Eventually, you went to some kid by the name of Patrick Mahomes. To where you're going to have not only a consistent winning franchise, but also a Super Bowl winning franchise. And again, because of all of your players, Mahomes is a really, really good player. You find how elusive he is, how deceptively fast he is, decision making, things like that, arm strength, all the little intangibles he does really, really well in order to be able to actually get his team in a position to be successful.
Yeah.
And really all of that starts really with with the GM down in this particular case. It's unfortunately why none of the Bears coaches or GMs made it on this list, simply because. So anyway, let's move on. I don't even want to talk about it. I don't want to talk about Mr. Crime. But number 3, Ted Thompson.
And where's he a GM at?
I don't know. I don't want to talk about it.
He's done some great things.
Brian Packer backer, he would appreciate the fact that Ted Thompson is in fact a Green Bay Packer GM.
He's done some, like I was saying, great. He brought Favre from Atlanta, and one of possibly the biggest trades for that franchise. I think it was 1992. They traded for Favre in the offseason they traded for Favre going into 93. Week 3, I believe, of the 93 season, Don Majkowski goes down with an injury that he never saw the field again. And from that point forward, Favre had them perennial playoff team, always in the discussion for the Super Bowl. Granted, they only won one, but he had them there every time. Now, you draft Aaron Rodgers, so you got your heir apparent, and then now you question him. You've got to question him, right? Because now you have what? Aaron Rodgers. There's no Jordan Love. Is that who we're looking at?
Yeah, I don't know. You could do a couple of things in Green Bay. I think that actually might make a little bit of sense. For example, like Jimmy G, Kyle Trask. You have certain guys that are just of that caliber that they can take over seamlessly for an AA run.
That ilk. But no, I mean, when your franchise receiver says that he's going to a different team because he's uncertain of your future Hall of Fame first go round, first ballot Hall of Famer that you didn't get support for, that left him disgruntled, that now wants out, that now, I mean, if you just solidify that, do you have the Devontae Adams leaving? Do you have the whole Aaron Rodgers debacle that is right now in Green Bay?
Well, if Aaron is looking to make a statement, I think having to pay him $1 jillion a year, I think, is definitely a statement. Now that puts Green Bay in a very interesting situation, because unless you're actually going to be able to trade for somebody, you can't go out and get a free agent.
You're right.
And it's just simply one of those. Look, you know what? We only can afford $12 a year, but we'll give you a nice, healthy signing bonus, that kind of thing, because we don't have anything left.
These general managers with the cap, though, they work magic. I mean, the cap is basically like the bank of Monopoly, right? Everyone knows that when you're not looking, someone's sliding their hand around and taking money out of the bank of Monopoly. And that's all it is. They're just, hey, I'm doing this over here. I'm going to take this money out and push it over here. I mean, they're just pushing it, hiding it, moving it.
Sure.
I mean,
but you've got some serious players making some serious money in the NFL this year.
Oh, yeah.
Coming year. And I think, Kyler Murray wanted like $70 million plus or something like that is what I remember reading.
I heard he wants $4 million for every foot he is, and then he wants an extra $40 million.
So, yeah.
Somewhere like 90.
Can you imagine? If I'm paying you, that kind of money, not only are you not going to lose a game, perennial champion, but you literally have to win the World Series, Soccer World Cup, NBA champion, you name it. Yeah, you're going to have to do it all for that kind of money.
You have to play the Lightning for Lord Stanley's Cup. No, I get it.
Exactly. There's actually right down at the corner pub and stuff like that. They have a dart tournament. You better win that too. So next selection, which I believe we're actually at number 2.
2, yes, sir.
Fellow named Jones, Jerrance Jones Jr. I don't even know what his real name is. Jerry Jones from the Dallas Cowboys.
I think his name is Gerald, ain't it?
I have no idea. Doesn't really matter. No, the interesting thing about Jerry Jones is not only is he the owner, but he's also the general manager. I think he also does equipment and he does the concession stands. He's like the Cordell Patterson of.
Of GMs.
But what makes Mr. Jones so interesting is the fact that he's actually the architect, really, of the '90s Cowboys. Tragically,
How was he able to do that?
well, but tragically, he's also the reason for the 2000s Cowboys.
Again, how was he able to do that?
You had the this one quarterback guy. You know, he might have gone to Oklahoma, then he transferred to UCLA, and then of course he was drafted by the Cowboys. One Troy Aikman. He also actually hired that particular coach, another Jerry from the University of Miami. I think he played, coach a couple other areas. Fellow by the name of Johnson. Now, what made that kind of interesting? You also had Haley. You had, oh my goodness. If you're looking at the '90s Cowboys, where do you start?
No, you're 100% right. And the issue with Jerry Jones is he struck gold, right? Like phenomenal. First couple of years as the owner, Herschel Walker deal set him up for the future of the '90s, but had no plan B, had no something to back up what he did. So as his players got older, you saw the Cowboys fall off.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Because you have everything from like Tony Romo, of course, who at times he was an elite quarterback. And there were certain other times you're like, ooh, I can't believe we drafted him at all, period.
What blows my mind is how well Romo can read a field. You know what I mean? And I know that's just from watching the all 22 tape, all the time. But watching him as a broadcaster or as a color commentator, whatever you want to call him, he honestly does a good job reading a defense from upstairs.
Oh, yeah.
I think he would be a great coach. But that's just me.
You never know. He's still relatively young. I think he's, mid-40s?
Yeah, he can't be worse than Jason Garrett.
So there is also the Jason Garrett experiment, I guess you could say. I don't know if you call that experiment because he was with the Cowboys for years.
Right. He was a great offensive coordinator.
And quarterback-wise, I would definitely put him in the top 5 within mediocre quarterbacks.
He was a solid number 2.
I don't know. We need that little da-doom-doom.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't even know if he was a solid number 2, but anyway, he was an interesting choice as head coach. Some of his teams, I guess, were better than others, but I think a lot of that just really revolved around really Jason Garrett. But you also have to appreciate the fact that Jerry Jones actually brought it all together, especially in the mid '90s, because you have, like I said, a team running back. Hall of Fame, quarterback, Hall of Fame. I think the tight end ended up in the Hall of Fame. I think you had I don't know how many defensive players and
wide receiver.
It was just insane. So they would have accidentally won 12 games, that kind of thing. That's how good they were at one point. Pittsburgh Steelers, of course, going to be our number 1. Fellow by the name of Tom Donahoe. So back in the 80s, of course. Well, even in the 70s. So the 70s, of course, were the Steelers' decade for sure. We talked about that last week, how, we couldn't even figure out which Steelers team was the best, 75, 78,
right,
72, 74. So, it was just one of those things where they just were so good for so long. Was it a product of the players, the coaches, the schemes? All starts with your GM, bringing it all together. One big mosh posh of ooey gooey goodness, I guess you could say. Kevin Green, of course, was one of his, I guess you say one of his bigger trades, because Kevin Green, of course, I think didn't he end up in the Hall?
He did.
So and I know he played for the Panthers and a few other teams and things like that, but he was just so incredibly consistent. He gave you that motor. He was always going to go. He was always going to be in the right place. So, then of course you had some of the other teams. He of course also he hired Bill Cowher. Bill Cowher, of course, was the coach for what seemed to be 20 years.
Well, you look at Chuck Noll,
Chuck Noll,
Bill Cowher, Mike Tomlin. If that doesn't say structure, I don't know what does. Right. I mean, you don't have. Let's look at a team that you're familiar with. You look at the Bears; they've had more coaches than that in 5 years. You know what I mean? There's no longevity. With Pittsburgh, they stick by their coach. I mean, I don't think Tomlin's had a losing season. I mean, think about that. As
a matter of fact, I think last year was his 10th year or something like that.
Yeah,
without a losing season.
Yeah, it's insane to think about, but so there's something to be said for a sound foundation of football, and it starts with their GM. It starts with their ownership. The Rooney family, it just has been exceptional for the city of Pittsburgh.
Oh yeah. And that's what makes it kind of interesting is the consistency of, you stick with a particular person for a long, long time, good things eventually will happen, especially if you give them the tools. So he's also responsible for acquiring a fellow by the name of Jerome Bettis, the Bus, Golden Domer, who I remember reading not too long ago. He actually went up and completed his degree at the University of Notre Dame.
He did, and that was one of the top 15 greatest trades of all time is when they got Jerome Bettis from the Rams, and he took over the city of Pittsburgh. I mean, blue collar, right? And just his blue collar running style took them all the way to Detroit for his final game, and he won the Super Bowl. I mean, that's fairy tale ending, right?
It really is, yeah.
So,
especially with that type of scenario, you have the player who actually has that workman type attitude in a city that's just filled with workmen and stuff like that. And you're absolutely right. He was just a darling of the city, really.
Right.
I bet you even today he goes to Pittsburgh. I can't imagine him paying for a drink, paying for a meal.
Oh, never. I don't think he's ever paid for Monty Brothers or anything like that in the city of Pittsburgh. I mean, I don't think he pays out anything in the city of Pennsylvania until he gets to Philadelphia, or the state of Pennsylvania until he gets to Philadelphia.
Probably.
So,
and there's also one other guy that our friend Mr. Donahoe is actually responsible for. Somebody, of course, near and dear to my heart. A fellow by the name of Alan Faneca. Remember that guy?
I do.
All-world offensive. You know what? You could say center. You could say guard. He did everything. He really was.
He pushed out a tackle a few seasons, if I'm not mistaken, due to injury. He was pushed out to tackle just to
would not surprise
solidify it. But yeah,
would not surprise me. He was tough, smart. I mean, it was just he was just You put him on next to Dermontti Dawson again, for example, and you got yourself the starts of something special.
Yeah, Pittsburgh always seems to build well up front. You went Mike Webster, Dermontti Dawson, then you got the Pouncey. Was it Mike Pouncey? Or is it Mark? No. It was one of them. They both look alike.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, they seem to anchor their team in the draft, and they draft linemen. They build up front, and it's worked for them for years. They're a sound organization with, honestly, God, a great foundation that starts right where you're at.
It really does.
So we went through year 6. No, I mean, unless you have something else to add, we got another 6 to go through.
Yeah, but mine was fun. Mine was cool. Yours is going to be depressing.
All right, well let's go into my pick 6.
They're blitzing everybody, coming after him. And Deion Sanders leaped and intercepted on our 39-yard line to the 40, to the 45, to the 50, to the 45, to 40. He got a block to the 30. the 25, the 20. Deion Sanders, touchdown.
Yeah, we'll cut that. Cut that a little short. So my pick 6 is going to be my most notable trades in NFL history. Now, I had a few honorable mention that we'll touch on real quick. One of my favorite stories of NFL trades is John Elway. Now, he didn't make the pick 6, but the Elway trade honestly moved an entire franchise from the city of Baltimore, to Indianapolis. 83, the Colts draft John Elway. John Elway refuses to play. So they trade him to a certain team out in Denver. Elway goes on to have a Hall of Fame career, a couple Lombardi trophies. But after that trade in 1984, the Mayflower trucks backed up into the city of Baltimore and took the Baltimore Ravens all the way to Indy. That one did not make the list. How about the Maserati Mitch over Mahomes? What organization would do something so dumb, so stupid? What organization would move up one draft pick, give up, 4 picks, a litany of picks to move up one pick to draft a quarterback that everyone thought was going to be Patrick Mahomes, that everyone thought was going to be Deshaun Watson? Good thing it wasn't. Instead, it's Maserati Mitch.
I don't want to. Let's move on. I don't want to talk about that.
And that team is the Chicago Bears. So, I mean, that's got to be one of the worst moves in NFL history.
What?
Well,
he actually took the Bears to the playoffs twice with a Matt Nagy offense.
Okay.
That is a superior player.
Patrick Mahomes is on the board. You're telling me you're happy watching Patrick Mahomes go into the playoffs every year, win a Lombardi, go back and lose the Super Bowl, go back and win a Super Bowl. You're happy? See, I mean, come on.
I would totally take Mitch every day.
Possibly one of the worst trades, most notable trades nonetheless. Now let's go Khalil Mack. The Bears honestly made a good move here. 2018, the Raiders send Khalil Mack to the Chicago Bears. Mack is arguably the best player in the league at the time. Gruden doesn't want to pay him. Can't pay him. Whatever he said, he didn't want to pay him. Excuse me. So after the 2018 holdout, they traded him and a second to the Bears. The Bears give up a first, a sixth in 2019, and a first and third in 2020. But to be fair, any team in the league would have made that trade. The Bears just had the money available to do it. Now, granted, it didn't come to fruition as all Bears fans wanted to. It didn't give you the monsters of the midway, but Khalil Mack still played solid for the Bears.
Well, see, that's the thing, too, because I don't know if it was necessarily because naturally he's used to, of course, West Coast, teams and things like that where they have just a ton of film on him, and they're familiar with his play and they're familiar with him. But when the first year when he came here, it's like who's this guy? They had the same film, they had the same people who actually knew him and stuff like that. But for some reason, he was able to have a lot of success, especially that first year with the Bears, even partially in the second year. Then things started, of course, kind of tapering off a little bit. And I don't know if it was necessarily because of the injury bug or.
I was going to say, you get injured, you get old. It happens.
You might lose a step, whatever the case is, but he's still a consistent player. He still has, of course, a motor that just keeps on going.
And I mean, look what you got for him from the Chargers. And the Bears are back at it.
Yeah, I mean, they got an incredible amount. I don't know, it's like 6-7 players. We got virtually nothing.
I think you got Chris Conti in a bottle of Gatorade, and you cut Conti and kept the Gatorade.
What flavor?
So, but anyway, so let's slide down or slide over, I guess you would. We'll go east a little bit to the other mistake by the lake, the Cleveland Browns. The Cleveland Browns trade for Watson. Cleveland sends their first-round pick in 2022, 2023, 2024, a fourth-round selection in 2022, and a fourth-round selection in 2024. Oddly enough, at the time, the man had 22 allegations of sexual misconduct pending against him. League still hasn't made a ruling yet.
23 now.
No, 24 now.
Oh.
So now we're up to 24 allegations. Probably won't play. And you rub Baker Mayfield the wrong way. Hey, live from Dublin, what's up?
Hey. Top of the morning or good afternoon.
Is that an Irish accent?
I'm trying my best.
So I don't know if you were able to watch. Somehow we had a glitch with our streaming. We were not streamed on our actual page. So I don't know if you were able to see anything. We're going through the top trades, most notable trades in NFL history. We just did Khalil Mack's Bears. We just hit on Watson to the Browns. But since you're on, I'm going to bring up another trade that I don't have on the list. And that's Brett Favre.
Yes, sir. The Packers had these.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Well, we spoke about a little bit earlier with Andy's GM of the year, Ted Thompson, but the Favre trade I don't have on the list, but it changed that franchise. I mean, it really took them out of the muck and mire of – I mean, Majkowski wasn't a bad quarterback, but he wasn't a quarterback with a future.
Right. Well, think about this for a second, guys. Brett Favre was a third-string quarterback in Atlanta.
Right.
I mean, think about that. So Atlanta drafts a guy with that much talent, and obviously Ron Wolf took a chance, noticed the talent, and traded away the 17th pick in the draft,
right,
to get him. And basically, if it wasn't for Majkowski, not getting hurt. I mean, Majkowski getting hurt.
Favre's still a back.
Exactly.
Right.
And then obviously the rest is history. You saw what happened. I mean.
So I've got two questions.
Yeah.
Number one, you either are you in like the biggest hotel room in the history of like hotel room?
I'm actually in the hotel hallway. I'm trying to give my wife a little break, so she's resting right now. So, but yeah, the hallways are kind of nice and big in here. So,
and number two, my second question is Brett Favre was decent, but was he a Tony Mandrich? I think not.
No.
Come on, Mandrich went on to have a solid career after Green Bay.
Solid.
Okay.
Yeah. But yes, I mean, I know you guys are. I know you'll eventually talk about the one trade back in the 70s that obviously the Packers really goofed up, but
we may touch on it.
But yes, I mean Brett Favre. I mean, think about it. I mean, it started the string of now, which is close to 30 years of great quarterback play. Because I mean, you bring in the Rodgers situation when the way he got drafted. I mean, it just started almost 30 years of great quarterback.
And you got another quarterback in the wing waiting to.
We'll see about that.
But you're going to be on for a while? I got 4 more picks to go through if you got a couple minutes.
I've got about 5 minutes.
All right. Well, when you got to go, just jump out. But
you got it.
So number 4, I have the Eric Dickerson deal to the Colts. Now, this is one of the rare deals in NFL history that took over 2 teams to do. It actually took 3. At the time, Dickerson's the best running back in the league, but he's terribly pissed with his contract with the Rams.
Correct.
The Rams were able to pull off a trade in 1987, which is the strike-shortened season. So the Colts had to trade Cornelius Bennett to the Bills for a first-round pick in 1988, second-round pick in 89, and running back Greg Bell. The Colts then traded Bell and those draft picks to the Rams for Eric Dickerson. Dickerson was good for Indy, but he wasn't L.A. Ram Eric Dickerson good. I mean, again, age, father time, injuries, it all catches up to the NFL. But, I mean, that trade, I mean, I remember watching Dickerson on TV up here, and it's just he was so fluid in everything he did. So I think that's one of the best trades just because it's most notable because of it revolving three teams to make that deal happen.
Right.
I don't think it impacted either team greatly. It's just cool that it took, you see stuff like that in baseball all the time. You never see that in the NFL anymore.
It's not more like a number one GM thing as opposed to an actual trade thing. Because where are we going to get the trade from? GMs.
Yeah, I don't really do.
But Cornelius Bennett, I mean, he ended up doing, I guess, okay for himself after the fact.
Cornelius Bennett had a great career. He's borderline. I don't know if he's in the Hall of Fame. He was borderline Hall of Fame. He had good numbers. How many Super Bowls did he go to?
Well, how many? You mean how many did he go to, or how many did he win?
No, I said go to. So, and here we go, Brian. Number 3. The Pack go all in on Halt.
Yeah.
1974. Coach Devine thought his team was one experienced quarterback away from their return to dominance, their return to greatness. His key to wake up the echoes of Green Bay Packer lore. Oh, he traded for a 34-year-old veteran who was with the Los Angeles Rams in the playoffs the year prior, was named NFC Player of the Year. But Green Bay traded so much for him at the time. I mean, they traded the first and second round of 75, 76 third round, and 70 and a 70 third rounder in 75. His record as a starting quarterback was 3-6 in 74, 4-10 in 75, and then they let him go. So, I mean, that is just a quagmire pick. It just kept your franchise in the mud for 2 more years. You then drafted another no-name quarterback. Didn't have anything really special for almost a decade. And then maybe even longer than a decade to where you actually got back into winning ways and recognition in the league. And that's playing against teams like the Bears.
Right. Well, I mean, you think of it.
You
think about that for a second. I mean, it did set the franchise back even further.
Who's the pick?
Who's the quarterback picked? I didn't research it. I just know that they didn't have it. I know they didn't have a winning season for a while after.
So you're talking about a particular player? And wait, what? Who? What? Huh?
Who was the player that they traded for? Was Hadl, Hadl. He did real well in the I think it was USFL, and then went to the Rams. Took the Rams to the playoffs in '73, and then he jumped around. He was a journeyman quarterback for a couple of years after that, and then was out of the league. I think the last team he played for was the Houston Oilers.
Packers up.
Right.
Got that.
Sure.
All right.
Well, listen, guys. I do have to head off. I just wanted to pop in and say, hey, I'm still alive.
We didn't recognize you without the beard. I thought leprechauns had beards.
Right. But yeah, I'm off to the wonderful world of Guinness to see how it's made and to have a pint.
Awesome. That's what's for breakfast.
Exactly. Well,
Later,
this is going to be a late lunch for me, but goodbye, guys. Goodbye, world.
Safe travels.
Peace.
Well, that was kind of cool, Ryan. Calling in from Dublin, actually, right now. But this takes us to, the number 2 most notable pick in all time on my list. And this one's kind of painful, really. I mean, the cost of Lombardi is what the trade was called. The Bucs trade for John Gruden. The Raiders get 2 first-round picks, 2 second-round picks, and $8 million. Bucks, in turn, get head coach John Gruden.
I'm sorry, who's the GM that did all that?
McKay. And then was quickly ousted by Gruden in a couple seasons. But anyway,
yeah.
So Gruden comes to Tampa, brings 23 free agents with him, establishes an offense that was honestly top 5 in the league. I want to say it was top 2. Don't hold me to that. But, years prior, we had quarterbacks like Sean King. Sean King was a good quarterback, but he wasn't take your team deep in the playoff quarterback, right? He took us to the NFC championship game, lost to the Rams. Rams won the Super Bowl, but it wasn't a consistent play. You get Keenan McCardell, Joe Jaravicius, Mike Pittman. Granted, Gruden's use of Allstott might have cost him a golden jacket. The way John Gruden used Mike Allstott could have cost him his chance at immortality. I mean, he's gonna – Mike Allstott's in the Ring of Honor in Tampa, and hopefully he does eventually get in. Should be the first actual fullback in today's era of football getting in to the NFL Hall of Fame. But that trade killed the Bucs organization for decades after. You lose Sapp, you lose Lynch, you lose – I mean, the players that were the cornerstones of the franchise, and it set them back. They didn't get back to the playoffs, I think, until 2007, and then hadn't been back until Brady. I mean, think about that. That's a lot of that. You want to talk about circle of suck? That's a lot of suck. So,
you sure it wasn't a product of the actual, the players in and of themselves? I mean, who was your quarterback, during that run when they won the Super Bowl?
Oh, Brad Johnson.
Brad Johnson. I mean, he was probably, I would say, if not the best quarterback in the hit. I'm just kidding.
But Johnson was a good journeyman quarterback. He took his teams to the playoffs. Did it in Minnesota. Did it in Tampa. Did it in Washington.
That's the thing too, because he kind of reminds you of Kirk Cousins kind of reminds you of like Brad Johnson, that he doesn't do anything spectacular, but yet he's not going to do anything that's going to really detriment the team and their opportunity to win.
Oh, absolutely. And the Tony Dungy's defense won that Super Bowl, but without John Gruden's offense, you don't get to that Super Bowl, right? I mean, everyone says that Gruden won with Dungy's team. And wow, yes, that does hold some truth. Gruden's fingerprints are all over that Lombardi trophy. I mean, he brought in free agents that, I mean, you had to replace Riddell Anthony. You had to replace Jacquez Green. You get receivers like Joe Jaravicius. You get Keenan McCardell. I mean, Keyshawn Johnson. All these players are contributors to that Super Bowl. I know Johnson wasn't Gruden. I'm just saying. But anyway, let's get to the number one. We might cut this show early today even, because this number one is hands down the best trade in NFL history. You got the great train robbery. Herschel Walker was the largest trade in NFL history. The deal on October 2nd, 1989, sending Herschel Walker to the Dallas Cowboys, from the Dallas Cowboys to the Minnesota Vikings. That gave them the draft picks to select the people you were talking about earlier. Troy Aikman, Emmitt Smith, Michael. I mean, it was all there. I mean, that's your dynasty. That's your 1990s Dallas Cowboys in one trade. That built your organization. That changed the landscape of the NFL. I mean, do you have any other pick that you think you could throw, or any other trade you could throw in there that would come close to that? There was a team in the NFC South that tried to do something close to that. You know, they bet they had the greatest running back in NFL history coming to them. So they traded every single draft pick they had for Ricky Williams.
Yeah.
Certain folks that had ties. What?
Ricky Williams had all the intangibles, though. You know, you had big, strong, fast. You know, yeah, that was kind of the thing, wasn't it? And you can certainly appreciate, where he wants to do what he wants to do, and that's cool. But if he would have actually been all in, as some of the other players and stuff like that, he may have actually been one of the top guys like ever.
I mean, that I didn't mention that as one of my honorable mentions, but if you think about it, that could go hand in hand as 1B. I mean, I really think that trade just the Saints recovered well, right? They've established themselves as a dominant team in the NFC South. And that pains me to say this because we all know I'm a diehard Bucs fan. But seeing the Saints put on that big of, I don't know what you want to call it, parade, show. And I mean, when you have your head coach standing at a podium in dreadlocks, wearing Rastafarian gear, sunglasses, and that man is known as Iron Mike, you have him making a charade of himself in front of the national media, in front of your team, in front of the whole NFL. I mean, that's got to be up there. And they weren't done. They had a photo shoot for ESPN. Mike Ditka, nice gorilla suit, bow tie. Ricky Williams pulling the Dennis Rodman, coming out in a wedding gown. That's got to be 1B.
You can really appreciate the fact that you get to a certain point in your career that, you can kind of loosen up. You don't take yourself so seriously. And, that's why I think Mike Ditka did what he kind of sort of did. I mean, was it a good trade or even a good pickup? I think, was it a draft or was it an actual trade?
They traded every draft pick they had to move to number 5 and take Ricky Williams.
So look at the tail of the tape. How many yards did he actually end with? How many
it cost Ditka his job.
It did. And okay, and Ricky Williams eventually got suspended a couple of times because of his substance
and retired because he wanted to smoke, had to declare bankruptcy, had to pay all the fines, so he had to come back to the NFL, went to the Dolphins, went to the Ravens, left the league.
So other than that, no, I don't see anything wrong with that trade.
I mean, it is what it is. But that's my list. That's my pick 6. I'd love to see what you guys all have to think. I'd love to see you send us email or send us messages, drop the comments, pop them on the page. Just tell us your pick 6 most notable trades of all time. But
or GMs.
Yeah, GMs even. So
I got it. Jerry Angelo. I got it. Ryan Pace.
Jason Licht does deserve some recognition for that. I mean, he turned the Bucs around pretty quickly. He got this guy, this old man. I was pissed when they picked him up. When they got Brady, I was so damn mad. And then he doubled down and got Rob Gronkowski, and I was so damn mad. But you know what? I'm loving it now. So.
Yeah, wait till next year when he's in Miami.
That's all right. He got us a Lombardi, got us the NFC South championship.
That, of course, puts the Bucs back where they belong, last.
Yeah, we'll see what happens.
They're going to be the last of the last. So, of the 32 teams, in the league, they're going to be number 34.
All right, and this is why I'm going to say this. This is going to be our last show for a couple weeks. We got a holiday coming up. We want to have time to actually put together a good product. So we're going to take a couple weeks, do some research, got some new videos and stuff like that. I almost said the bad word. Did you hear that?
I always do.
But, so, you got anything else to add today?
Yes.
Add away. Awesome.
We'll probably see everybody in the next 3 weeks or so.
Yeah, probably the first weekend after the 4th, I think, is a good go point for that, right?
We'll bring in some videos. We'll bring in hopefully a couple of those ugly faces that you guys are used to. We'll bring those guys back, and we'll kind of go from there.
All right, sir. Well, I appreciate you spending the last few weeks with me on the Power Hour, if you will. Hopefully we can get away from just you and I. I mean, we're kind of ugly. Not saying any of the guys are better looking, but at least it's a distraction from how ugly I am. But
there's a reason why I'm called Eye Candy. That's
Yeah.
Marcus.
But anyway.
It is
all right,
quite
brother.
fast.
I'll talk to you throughout the week. We'll see everyone else in what? After the 4th.
After the
You
4th.
good with it? All right. We'll see you then.
Peace. Come on.